Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into the world of Gen Z.
You know,
A
uh,
generation that's
yeah,
not just some passing fad.
right.
They're really like a seismic shift in the global landscape.
What's really mind-blowing to me is that Gen Z is about to be like the biggest generation in history.
Whoa!
Like a staggering 32% of the global population.
Okay, wait, that's wild.
Yeah, just picture this, like 1 out of every 3 people on the entire planet is going to be a Gen Z.
I mean, I knew they were a lot of people, but
Yeah.
I never really thought about like the sheer scale is massive.
That's exactly why understanding Gen Z is so important right now.
Right.
I mean, they're not just the consumers of the future. They're
Yeah.
already shaping the markets, they're driving the trends, and they're already influencing like what their families buy too.
Oh, for sure.
Their online behavior, their values, what they want, all of that. It's changing everything even as we speak.
So are you saying that like anyone who's online, whether it's businesses, creators,
Mhm.
educators, they all need to understand Gen Z if they want to make it?
Absolutely. I mean,
Right.
putting it simply, if you can capture Gen Z's attention, you're going to thrive in this digital age. And that's where this deep dive comes in.
I like it.
We're going way beyond just like, surface level stuff about TikTok dances and avocado toast.
Yeah, yeah.
We're digging deeper into what's really shaping this generation, the forces that have molded their worldview and that are driving them forward.
All right, so let's break it down. We're talking about people born roughly what between 1995 and 2012?
Exactly.
Okay, so they're the ones coming after the millennials, and they grew up in the shadow of 9/11 and the 2008 crash.
Precisely. And we can't forget that those events really dominated their formative years.
Yeah,
They've witnessed economic instability, social unrest, and like a growing awareness of climate change.
of course.
And all those experiences have fundamentally shaped how they see the world.
Totally. And it's interesting because like I've been surprised by how like financially savvy some of the Gen Z people I know are.
Oh, yeah.
They just seem so much more aware of things like investing and saving than I was at their age.
That's a really great observation, and it points to another key thing about this generation, their natural digital fluency.
Right.
We always hear that term, digital natives, but for Gen Z, it's way more than just using technology.
Right.
They've grown up immersed in this world of instant information, constant connection, and these ever-evolving digital landscapes. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't just consume information, they filter it, curate it, remix it at lightning speed.
It's true. I've totally noticed that.
Yeah.
They just seem to have this almost intuitive understanding of how to navigate the online world, how to find information and how to build communities online. It's like it's second nature to them.
Exactly. And that digital fluency has huge implications for the way they learn, how they communicate, even how they form relationships. Think about it. They've never known a world without the internet. Social media isn't some separate thing for them. It's woven into the fabric of their lives. They've made friends, explored their identities, engaged in activism, all within that digital realm.
So it's not even just about the technology itself. It's more about how that technology has like fundamentally reshaped their whole understanding of the world and their place in it.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that their experiences, their values, even their anxieties are deeply connected to that digital landscape they live in. And this is where things get really fascinating because this generation isn't just passively consuming the world they've inherited.
Oh, yeah.
They're actively trying to change it.
They're not messing around.
Yeah.
I see it all the time in their activism about climate change, social justice, and mental health awareness. They're not afraid to speak up,
Yeah.
challenge the status quo, and demand action.
That's right. And they're doing it in ways that like earlier generations couldn't have even imagined.
Yeah.
They're using social media to organize protests, raise awareness, build these global movements. They're using online platforms to share their stories, connect with people who have the same values, and mobilize for change.
It's honestly inspiring to see that passion and commitment to making the world a better place.
Right.
But I'm also kind of curious about the challenges they face.
Right.
Growing up in a world that's constantly connected with all this information overload and social media pressure, it's got to take its toll.
Absolutely. And we're going to dig into those challenges later in our deep dive.
Okay, good.
We'll explore how social media impacts their mental health, the anxieties they have about the economy and climate change, and how they're redefining success in a world that's constantly changing.
Looking forward to that. But before we move on,
Yeah.
can we circle back to something you mentioned earlier about Gen Z's global perspective?
Sure.
I think that's a really crucial point.
Absolutely. This is a generation that's connected across borders in ways that we couldn't have imagined just a few decades ago.
Yeah.
I mean, they're forming friendships, sharing experiences, engaging in activism with people all over the world. They're exposed to different cultures, languages, and perspectives from a very young age.
Wow.
And that shapes their understanding of the world in a very profound way.
So in a sense, they're not just a generation. They're like a global community.
Exactly, and that's why we're dedicating a big chunk of this deep dive series to exploring the regional differences within Gen Z.
Okay, cool.
We'll be looking at how their experiences are shaped by cultural, economic, and political contexts in different parts of the world. I mean, after all, a Gen Zer in Asia is going to have different priorities, challenges, and opportunities than one in Europe or Africa.
That's a great point. It reminds us that while there are some common threads that unite this generation,
Yeah.
their experiences are still incredibly diverse and nuanced, and understanding those nuances is key to truly understanding their impact on the world.
Exactly, and that understanding is essential for anyone who wants to engage with this generation authentically, whether it's in business education or simply trying to understand what's shaping our world today.
So we've established that Gen Z is a force to be reckoned with. They're the largest generation in history, digitally fluent, globally connected, and they're driven by a desire to make a difference.
Yeah.
But what does that mean for the rest of us? How do we connect with this generation in a meaningful way? How do we understand their values, their aspirations, and anxieties?
Those are great questions, and they're exactly what we'll be exploring in the rest of this deep dive series. We'll be looking at their relationship with technology, their impact on the workplace, their mental health challenges, and their vision for the future.
Excited to keep digging into this.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we're just scratching the surface of what this generation has to offer.
Me too. And I think what we'll discover is that understanding Gen Z isn't just about understanding a particular demographic group. It's about understanding where our world is headed. It's about recognizing the values, the challenges, and the possibilities that will shape our collective future.
All right, so that wraps up part 1 of our deep dive into Gen Z. Make sure you join us next time as we continue to explore this fascinating generation and unpack their impact on the world.
We'll be right back after a quick break.
See you soon.
Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, in the last part, we were talking about how digitally fluent Gen Z is and how, like, their whole upbringing during those times of economic and social change really shaped their worldview. But now I'm curious about, like, the actual impact they're having on the world around them.
Right, especially when it comes to like the workplace. I mean, they're joining the workforce like in huge numbers right now.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it? They're not just joining the workforce, though. They're, like, totally reshaping it. Their expectations are challenging all those old ideas about what a job should look like, what a career path should be.
Okay, so let's get into the specifics then. What are Gen Z's expectations about work? Like, what makes them tick?
Well, first of all, let's just forget that tired stereotype of Gen Z being lazy or entitled.
Yeah.
What my research actually shows is that they're incredibly ambitious and driven.
Really?
Yeah, but their ambition just shows up in different ways than previous generations.
So you're saying it's not all about climbing the corporate ladder or aiming for that corner office?
Exactly. Their digital fluency has shown them a much wider range of possibilities. I mean,
Makes sense?
they've seen entrepreneurs building businesses, online creatives making money from their passions, and activists making real social change through digital platforms. So it's like their definition of success is broader.
So are they less interested in following that traditional career path and more into finding work that like aligns with their values and lets them make a real impact?
That's a key insight. They're definitely looking for purpose in their work. They want to feel like they're contributing to something bigger than themselves, whether it's addressing social issues, promoting sustainability, or just creating products and services that actually make people's lives better.
I mean, that makes sense considering they've grown up seeing the effects of climate change, social inequality, and political polarization. Those issues are like really important to them.
Absolutely. They're not content with just showing up and doing their time. They want their work to reflect their values and help make a better world.
Okay, but how does this desire for purpose like actually translate into their career choices?
Yeah.
Are there specific industries that Gen Z is drawn to?
We're seeing a big surge of interest in fields like renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, social entrepreneurship, and ethical fashion. These are all industries that directly address those challenges they care about.
So it's almost like they're voting with their careers by choosing to work for companies that are actively trying to fix the world's problems.
Exactly. They're using their talents and skills to create positive change, and this trend is forcing companies to rethink their whole approach. I mean, it's not enough to just offer competitive salaries and benefits anymore.
Right.
Companies that want to attract and keep Gen Z talent need to show a real commitment to social responsibility and sustainability.
So no more just like window dressing or greenwashing. Gen Z can see right through that.
Oh, totally. They're smart and they're discerning. They do their research, they read reviews, they follow social media discussions. They can quickly tell if a company is actually living up to its values or just talking the talk.
Hmm. This makes me wonder, though, how is this affecting those traditional industries that haven't always been associated with social impact?
That's a great point. We're seeing some really fascinating changes, even in sectors like finance, healthcare, and manufacturing. Gen Z is pushing these industries to adopt more ethical practices, whether it's through impact investing, promoting diversity and inclusion, or reducing their environmental footprint.
So they're not just changing the game for startups and social enterprises, they're pushing those big established corporations to evolve too.
Exactly. And it's not just about their career choices. Either their consumer behavior is also driving this shift. They're much more likely to support brands that align with their values, even if it means spending more money on ethical or sustainable products.
So their influence goes way beyond the workplace. They're using their purchasing power to hold companies accountable.
Precisely. They're creating this ripple effect across industries, forcing businesses to put social and environmental responsibility first if they want to stay relevant and competitive.
So we've talked about their values and their need for purpose,
Hmm.
but what about Gen Z's actual work style? They've grown up in a digital world of instant communication and collaboration. How does that affect their approach to work?
Well, for one thing, they value flexibility and autonomy. That traditional 9 to 5 office job doesn't really appeal to a lot of them.
Right.
They want to work remotely, set their own hours, and have the freedom to integrate their work with their personal lives.
It's like they're redefining that whole idea of work-life balance, right? They're not willing to sacrifice their well-being for a paycheck.
Exactly. And this is leading to a huge change in how companies operate. We're seeing a lot more remote work options, flexible schedules, and co-working spaces.
But doesn't this emphasis on flexibility sometimes clash with the need for collaboration in a work environment?
That's a valid point, but Gen Z is really good at using technology to stay connected and collaborate effectively, even when they're not physically in the same place. They've mastered video conferencing, project management tools, and all sorts of online communication platforms.
So they're basically using their digital fluency to create a new kind of work culture, one that's more flexible, more collaborative, and more in line with their values.
Exactly. And this is having a big impact on those old school workplace hierarchies and power structures. Gen Z is less interested in top-down leadership and more into flat organizations where everyone has a say and can contribute their ideas.
I imagine that's tough for some managers who are used to that more traditional command and control style of leadership.
It definitely takes a shift in thinking, but the companies that are embracing these changes are seeing the benefits. They're attracting top talent, boosting innovation, and creating a more engaged and productive workforce.
So it seems like Gen Z isn't just entering the workforce, they're actively shaping it to reflect who they are. They're bringing their values, their digital skills, and their global perspective to the world of work, and the effects are already being felt across industries.
And this is just the beginning. As Gen Z continues to rise in the ranks, their influence will only get stronger. Their impact on the workplace is like a small-scale version of their broader impact on society. They're challenging old norms, embracing new ways of thinking, and pushing us all to create a world that's more equitable, sustainable, and purpose-driven.
All right, so welcome back to the deep dive. We've been talking all about Gen Z, and in the last part, we really got a feel for how they're already shaking things up when it comes to work. But there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to look at, and it's something that makes this generation truly unique, their global perspective.
That's right. You know, Gen Z is often called the first truly global generation, and for good reason. I mean, they've grown up in a world where technology has basically erased geographical boundaries.
Yeah, like they can connect with someone on the other side of the world just as easily as they can with their neighbor.
Exactly. Social media, online gaming, virtual communities, all that stuff. It's not just entertainment for Gen Z, it's the foundation of their social lives. It's how they connect, share experiences, make friends, and even get involved in activism.
It's kind of wild to think that they're building these global communities without even leaving their rooms.
And that constant exposure to all these different cultures, languages, and viewpoints is shaping their worldview in a way that we've never seen before.
So it's not just about like understanding different cultures intellectually, it's about actually experiencing and interacting with them and building real connections across borders.
Exactly. And that has a huge impact on how they see the world, how they approach problems, and how they see themselves fitting into this global society.
It sounds like this global perspective could be a real advantage as they navigate all the complexities of the 21st century.
Absolutely. I mean, this generation is uniquely prepared to tackle those big global challenges like climate change, economic inequality and social injustice. They get that these problems go beyond national borders and need solutions that involve everyone working together.
So their interconnectedness isn't just some social trend. It's like a potential force for positive change on a global scale.
Exactly. Now, of course, Gen Z isn't like one big uniform group. Their experiences and opinions vary depending on where they live, their cultural background, and their economic status. But this basic global awareness is something that connects them across all those differences.
And that's why it's so important to explore those regional differences, right? To see how their global perspective intersects with their own local realities.
That's exactly what we'll be doing in future episodes of this deep dive series. We'll be looking at how Gen Z is influencing cultures and economies in different parts of the world. We'll look at the challenges they face, the opportunities they're creating, and the unique ways they're contributing to their communities.
Really looking forward to that. It just goes to show that Gen Z is a global force we can't ignore, and their impact is going to be felt everywhere.
And it's not just about the future. They're already making a difference right now. Their values, what they want, their digital skills, all of it is changing industries, shaping political conversations, and redefining what it means to be a global citizen.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the main takeaway is that if you want to understand where our world is headed, you got to understand Gen Z.
Couldn't agree more. Whether you're a business leader, an educator, someone making policies, or just someone curious about the future, you can't ignore Gen Z anymore. It's that important.
They're not just the leaders of tomorrow. They're the ones changing things today. And their global perspective, their digital skills, and their dedication to making a better world will have a huge impact on all our futures.
So as we continue to explore Gen Z in future episodes, remember this, their story is our story, their struggles are our struggles, and their successes will be our successes.
That's all for this deep dive into Gen Z. Thanks for listening.
And remember, stay curious.